Welcome to the Hard Lessons podcast. I'm your host, Charlie, founder of an Oakville-based construction company. Each week, we dive into the world of business, personal development, and the entrepreneurial journey. We'll be talking with successful business owners who've been in the trenches and learned those hard lessons. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take business to the next level, you're in the right place. Join us as we turn hard lessons into stepping stones for success. Welcome back to the Hard Lessons podcast here. Today we have Matt joining us. He's from Eastern Canada, and Matt has a super impressive story. What he's done early. He's servicing hundreds of clients for residential snow removal. I believe he was on the path to become a doctor earlier on, and things kind of twisted. He refocused his priorities, and until since then they've been crushing it. Matt, I can't wait to hear more about your guys' story. You to fill me in, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be here, man.
Awesome. If you don't mind starting, where'd you start off? Obviously, tractors from the beginning was fun to you. You loved them. You mentioned it was your first word, but a little bit later on down the line, when did you really decide to start scaling this as a business and also saying no to the medical field?
I mean, it all, like I said, it started when I was a little kid. And then when I was 11, my obsession got so annoying, I guess, to my parents that they would let me skip stupid classes that were at the beginning of my schedule in grade 7 to go do this snow removal crap, I guess. And it just, from there, I started making YouTube videos. I was always watching the internet. I remember when Nick from Nick Snow, he started out making videos way back, like about 10 years ago. I was about the same time frame that I was making videos. Me and him actually have a couple. If you go back, I think they're like 8 or 9 years old now. There's comments of me as a little kid, him as a little kid, talking to each other when we both had our first tractors. And that's kind of when I started to see him adopting this stuff that he's learned. And as he learned it, then I learned with him, because I don't think he realized I was watching. And I seen what he was doing, and I didn't understand it for the longest time. And then I decided it's time to study it. And I sat down and watched every video, and I was looking at screens, looking at names, anywhere that I could get information on what the hell is going on here. And I stumbled across Paul Vanderzon. And Paul, who also helped Nick, was more than happy to hop on a call with me and kind of break down what was going on and how this business model worked and how it made sense. And I just jumped in. I mean, I wasted no time. Anyone from around here, they can love me, they can hate me. I did it in 1 year. I went from 12 customers October 2021 to 700 October 2022. So there was no middle ground. There was no room for failure. And unfortunately, there was lots of failure. And there's a lot that came with that. And I'm sure we're going to get into that after. But it happened very quick. I never had this plan to be, some snow removal guru. That was never the goal. It was more of a interior or inside desire, I guess, to fulfill my childhood dream. I felt like it was what I was meant to do, and I still feel like that to this day, which is why I'm on this podcast and why I'm still open.
Love it. Awesome. And what was that like? No, you get a lot of heat regardless of what you do, whether it's with the business or from parents, family, saying no to the medical field. Did you have the support of everyone? Did that bother you? What were you working? Obviously that's usually working against the grain of, I think you didn't finish school and started early.
Yep. I mean, it all started, I failed out of grade 7 because of snow removal. I was too busy. So my father said, to hell with this. He's very white collar, very university oriented. He goes out and takes this extraordinary step and decides to send me to a private school. Now, keep in mind, I'm a hillbilly. So I grew up in the middle of the woods, loving tractors. He decides to take that kid, plot me in a private school, one of the nicest private schools in Canada. So I'm there. Good. Yeah. And the funny part is I excelled. So what was interesting, I guess, even for me, was I never thought I was intelligent because I never really tried to use my brain. And I had amazing marks. I won very large awards. I actually was on Bill Nye the Science Guy. I invented some sort of bulletproof clothing, magnesium infused with dense silicone carbide nanoparticles. We got that patent. We came first place in the world. And we got flown to Washington, D.C. It got patented by the University of California. So we went ballistic. That was in grade 8. So I went from snowblowing a couple of my neighbors to flying to be on shows with Bill Nye the Science Guy in Washington, D.C. with paparazzi everywhere. So in that moment, I kind of realized, okay, me and my group of friends that were with me, we all have the ability to do something big, something interesting with our life. And I just found like from there, I just kept seeking a bigger high. So the rest of like grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, I just kept feeling like a failure because I was getting really good marks. I was excelling in everything. So everyone's like, you got to be a doctor. You got to be like a heart surgeon. That's my new puppy, by the way. You got to be a dog. You got to be not a Yoopy dog. You got to be a heart surgeon. You got to be a doctor. You got to be XYZ because it fit that narrative, right? With the bulletproof clothing and the science and all these courses I was taking. So I got into biopsych. And my marks stayed the same. I kept being higher up in my class. By no means not the smartest, but a very hard worker and very disciplined. And it showed in my grades. But then the reality hit of bills. So third year university, I had an apartment that was overly priced like everything else today. And I only was a night shift janitor at McDonald's. So that's when it kind of struck me. I need some money and I don't want it. I need it. I'm not going to go, homeless because of the school crap. And it's not even my passion, mind you. I've always loved tractors. It's just something that I'm good at. So I said, what if I just use my brain differently? And that's kind of when you see me jumping into this business model. It's been the opposite of what I've expected it to be. And I've said it on other podcasts. It's still my dream. It's just learning that there's other parts of my dream that I wasn't aware of. Yeah. And I mean, my family hated it. Everyone hated it. The whole city hated it. Everybody hated it. But I love it. That's why I still do it.
So you mentioned a little bit, like, what do you mean by that? It's a different, what was it? You just said a different dream than you thought, but it still is your dream. Was it because it was social media made this model look something different, or like what was that?
I don't know. It could have been my childhood expectations being naive, I guess, lack of exposure to this stuff maybe. And it also could be just the stereotypical issue and the major dilemma of our generation being that people are only exhibiting what they want to exhibit. Even me on this podcast, I'm more reluctant to share certain negative points about myself rather than the positive. And I feel like the more attention this business model gets, there's a lot more than the reality of what's going behind it. I know that there's stress. I know how the money works. I see the spreadsheets and I can 100% see why I still do it. And I can 100% see why someone like Nick would choose not to. There are very thin margins in this business model. It's not as glamorous as everyone likes. But what I see is an investment into a customer list that is invaluable. I see if you can please X amount of people to their satisfaction, you get the cash flow, you can invest that into properties, you can build other companies off of these same customers. I don't see it as like, this company can make you a millionaire. I see it as it can if you're smart with your company. If you use your equity and, you build equity in other places and do all these things. So that's kind of where I'm shifting. I'm trying to buy commercial places. I'm trying to get into other services to keep cash flow coming through the doors and not be so hinged on one season of the year. Yeah. But that's where you see me losing passion, right? I don't care much about any other thing. It's just this one niche that I am in love with. And that's kind of hard for me, but that's business and that's life. You got to do stuff you don't like.
So going back to 700 clients in the first year, like that's very impressive. What was that like? This new kid coming in, probably pissing off every other landscaper and snow removal guy, and I know how it feels. I'm in the same boat in our city. People look at us with the yellow trucks and yellow shirts as that fucking kid, and like how was dealing with that? And like you're the type of person that probably wasn't the issue, but also like the marketing. That's very impressive. Just fucking blowing things up like.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to it, like you're saying. The side that I was good at and still am good at is marketing. So the marketing side of it is I was good at taking my emotion, like how I felt inside about this idea, and I was good at letting other people know that. And everyone else, I think they just signed up because of the passion. It was like when I showed up at someone's door, I wasn't leaving. You got to mind you as well, right? Like I'm not being braggadocious in any way, but in university, like I was majoring in psychology. So I learned all about how to kind of do a sale, like literally chapters upon chapters of psychology in university about selling. And I applied it. I remember I'd sit down with a psychology textbook and literally open it up and say, I don't care about this test that I have on Friday or this exam. I'm going to take this chapter. I'm going to go down the road and I'm going to make $10,000 this evening. And it worked. It went fantastic. And then, as you, I'm sure, are aware, it just starts snowballing. And then people get talking and it just starts this hype train, this momentum gets behind you. For me, I decided to shut the lights off of my own hype train because it was going to put me in the hospital. I had enough of it. It was overwhelming. I had to get a police escort out of a grocery store. It felt like I was almost like a Jake Paul of my town. I could not go anywhere. Everyone knew me. Everyone was talking about me. Thousands of calls. It was too much. I built too much hype. And now I'm doing more of a Nick approach. I'm focused on the bottom line. I decided that I took the feedback I was given from that year and said, this needs to be applied. Before I scale, I need to make sure that, exactly like you were saying, that this can work. Because it became very real very fast, the consequences of it not. You got to remember, like a guy like me starting out, there's big consequences. Big, very big. Like 20 years worth of poor debt and bankruptcy if this goes south. And that had not fully dawned on me. I was too caught up in my own hype. I was too, okay, like let's grow. Like you said, looking at that 2.5 million. Well, we hit 3 million. Oh, we hit 5. You're staring at it like a fuel meter or like a car speedometer. And I needed to just say, okay, Matt, you love this. Do you want to do it? Once I said, yes, I want to keep doing this. And not for my ego, not because other people want to see me fail and no, they're not going to see me fail. No, I want to keep doing it because I want to keep doing it because I love it. And then it was, all right, we're going to chew on our own ego, go back down, shrink all the way back down to 200, and then we're going to ace it. So we did that. And then this year, we're going to grow back up to 500. We did that. And now next year, not trying to jinx myself or anything, but I'm planning to go past 1,000. I'm planning to do 1,000 to 1,200. And I feel ready, though. And it's kind of just the journey, right? There's a lot of ups that people show and a lot of downs that people don't.
Yeah. Interesting. So a step back to take 3 steps forward, or whatever the hell the saying is, right? So that first season, let's talk more about that. I'm not too familiar. I've seen some of your videos and love what you're doing on YouTube. But that first year, so you've got like this massive client list. You're coming in, you're taking over. What went sour? Like, what was the main highlighted issues that you maybe overlooked or didn't prioritize, or things you guys weren't ready for? Like, what, looking back at it now, what were a few key lessons from that season?
One being equipment. So I didn't understand I knew the basics. I didn't understand the fine details. So like stupid shit, like I didn't put ballast on the front of my tractors. And I didn't realize how detrimental that would be. That would leave guys literally quitting on me in the middle of storms because they couldn't handle how rocky that machine was. So little shit like that I couldn't figure out, and it's really came back to bite me. Now that's not what really got me. What got me was my people. And if they're listening to this by some chance, capital F fuck you. Because the people that were around me that year were dog water humans. They did not care about my dream. And I was too young and naive and excited for my dream to understand that with me, it happens so quick. Like as a kid, you get to grow into different shoe sizes. So you're not surprised when you finally grow into a size 10. For me, it was like last year, I'm a nobody. All I did was sit in my apartment and I got to 700 customers while owning 0 tractors. I was just a marketing genius. So for me, I'm just sitting in my apartment and I'm just click-clacking on the computer, watching stuff come through. I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, we'll move this over here. I'll start ordering equipment from here. It never registered that, like you said, I conquered the entire city overnight. It never registered that people were going bankrupt and closing because of me. It never registered that all these fake people are going to start to come around me because they think I'm going to be some big success. They want part of it. They want some of the money. They want some of the clout. They want some of the XYZ. And the people that came around me being from a small town in Nova Scotia with not many friends, I just kind of thought like, wow, I got friends. No, I didn't have friends. I had people that wanted my money, people that would clock in and just send me ridiculous bills, force me to pay them, milk me dry. I had one guy steal $50,000, steal it. So there's a lot. Like, he shows up to work one day with a brand new car, and I'm like, I didn't pay you enough for that. So there's a lot, and people walking out in the middle of snowstorms. And I know none of this stuff sounds different to anyone. Like, it doesn't even sound like a lot to me now. Once you get that leather on your skin and you're used to the game, you have backstops for these things and you have ways to maneuver. And I never let myself get cornered again, but I was very cornered, very back against the wall. And we finished our first snowstorm. I didn't have, like, the biggest thing that basically we didn't have a receptionist, because the year before, why would I need a receptionist? In my brain, I'm going to leave a voicemail that says, put it on Do Not Disturb, say, this is our time, this is what we're planning to do, and give the customers their information that way. The customers in my city are very needy, and if they don't get a hold of somebody or get a response, they take it online. I didn't know that. I had to learn that the hard way. Now we have receptionists. But when we didn't, basically we were out. It wasn't even that bad. It was 14 hours, couple breakdowns. It wasn't horrible. I throw in gravel because we didn't know how to deal with that back then. But I finished the storm thinking everything's fine. 14-hour shift. It was long, but it's our first run. And then I get one text from my mom, and she just said, like, I love you, buddy. And I was like, okay, like, I love you too. And she goes, don't turn on your phone tonight. And I was just like, what do you mean? And anyway, I got home, and yeah, I'm on the news. 21-year-old scam seniors out of pension. And that's when it all started. And I got beer bottles broken through all my tractor cabs. I got people trying to mug me. I had a biker gang approach me and try to get me to pay them for protection because of how hated I was. When it went south, it went south. It went very, very south. And that's when the passion came in, though. And I mean, I believe, if there is a God up there, that it was done on purpose. I was being humbled on purpose, and I was being shown the lessons I needed to be shown before I got too big. And I mean, I was still pretty friggin' big, but I didn't look into it too much. By January, we were out of money. That should give you some reference. By January, we had negative 25,000. The only line of credit we had was tap. Couldn't even fuel up a tractor. And that's when people from my hometown, 2 hours down the highway, started driving and working for free because they knew me. They knew, like, the little kid me and what I dreamt of my entire life and how much I'd put into this. And they knew that this wasn't my doing. If it was me and every one of those tractors, everything would have been done. It was just the people. Growing too fast is the stereotypical thing to say, but it was like drinking water from a fire hydrant. You suffocate. I was awake for 6 days. I got put into the hospital, got PTSD from it. It was horrendous, to say the least. And it's honestly, my brain just kind of blurs it out now. I'm not, like, it doesn't let it feel. And now I don't even really get stressed about anything because I feel almost like it can't go any worse. I'm open and we're growing again. And anytime something breaks, I'm like, whatever. Like, I've been through this. Someone posts on Facebook. I'm like, have at it. Like, I feel like I'm bulletproof now. Bringing it back to my bulletproof clothing.
Almost like
I feel like I put it on. Yeah, I wasn't, right? Because, like I said, you grow into your shoes. And I didn't have that ability, like that time, to get my first few bad customers, my first few vocal complainers. I didn't get the leather or the calluses to be able to deal with it. So I was very naive, very young, very enthusiastic, and also infatuated with the dream. So I'm very like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, my life is made. I got my tractors. I got everything I need. And then reality just smacked me.
That's, like, cool. You're able to twist the perspective of, like, the gratefulness for those lessons so early on. And I feel like when you're thrown right to the deep end, your back's against the wall, of the speed of learning and growing is like, no, there's no, like, online course or classroom or anything that compares to being able to be taught these lessons at such a quick speed and at such an intense level. And, like, that's something, like, we had a really rough year this year, but looking back is like, that's our perspective on it, of like how quickly learned and the lessons and all that shit just to get better. So that's super cool. You're able to twist that. Now, you're saying January of that season, you guys are out of money. So then what? Like what happens with this list of people?
This is
What did you guys do?
So we had 1,200 contracts approved. I leave that out because I'm grateful that I subcontracted them before the season because I couldn't get enough equipment. So then we're left with the 600 batch around there. 650, 700, some days, people signing up, people leaving. We ran out of money and everyone's telling me, you got to file for bankruptcy. You got to file for bankruptcy. You got to back out of this and you got to skip town. You got to move out of here because you're going to get yourself killed. And I just, in that moment, that's when I kind of dug my heels in. That's when I said, like, over my dead body, these people, I owe it to them. I sold this service. I got myself in this mess. I'm going to get myself out of it. And I don't even know how. I literally called any person that owned a business in the city. I would beg them for investments, aka fill up my tractor with diesel, and I'm not stopping until this is done. And a couple of people every here and there would fill up my tractor with diesel. My mom helped me fill up a few tractors with diesel, and I would sit in that machine for 60, 70 hours. And the customers that appreciated what I was doing and seen it all unfold, and they got to remember, while this is all happening, there's news reporters, right? Like, this is all documented. And I just got tunnel vision. I had a massive list of homes and I just said, fuck it. Like, I'm literally ride or die. Like, I'm going to do this until I drop on the floor, and I'm not eating. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not talking to nobody. I'm doing this. And I did. And a couple people saw that passion and they came out and worked for free. And a couple of my friends from 2-3 hours down the highway, they did the same. And by the end of the season, we actually miraculously had our route times. We did it. We actually had stuff functioning operationally, even though the money was in shambles. So we finished the season, and that's when I knew I was screwed. I had $15. So I worked my way up a bit, but I had $15. I remember that. $15 and like 70 something cents. And a fleet of over $1 million worth of equipment. Oh, these dogs are great. Yeah, I have a life now. I built this, but
I can't hear them. You're dead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had $15 and I'd work on a farm and spread manure for $15 an hour, which was under minimum wage. That's how I bought myself meals, and that was it. I would literally just spend it on food and work 12 hours a day. And I thought I was done. Like, bankruptcy was around the corner. I didn't expect to be open the next year at all. I just was glad I finished my commitment that year, and at least I could leave on a half decent note. That I worked my ass off and got there. And that's when I kind of had the feeling that this is my dream and this is what I'm meant to do. And that's kind of when God stepped in, because a random business guy by the name of Mark Hughes, he owns Atlantic Wind Door, and he'd be a great guy for you to talk to. He's very shy, though. I don't know if he'd be open to it. I came back from spread manure one day and he randomly shows up at my lot in a convertible, and I'm there counting my stakes, crying, like I'm done, I give up. And he shows up and I just said, "Who are you?" I think he's like a customer, right? Like, I'm like, get off of my yard, pissed, I lost everything, leave. And he just kind of says, "God told me you needed help." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And the next week, all my bills were paid. I had a shop and I had an office. And I had the largest partnership in the city. So that's my story. I still can't even wrap my head around it. And he just pulled me, like he grabbed me with his hands and gave me a hug and pulled all my equipment into this big shop, let me set up, had all of his mechanics get all my repairs done. His CFO, Robert Lee, also from his church, fixed everything. They called all the creditors. They played every system that they were taught with their calluses and their bruises how to play. And they said, "All right, Matt, we're shrinking you down to 2 tractors. We're going to do this." They really they took charge because I was numb. I was completely numb. And he helped. And I mean, still to this day, I mean, the guy helped me get a truck and calls me every time it snows. And anytime shit really hits the fan, he sends out like a mobile welder or something to keep us on the road. And he saved not only my business, but my life. And I don't even know if he understands what he did for me. I don't know why he did it. I don't know what drove him to do it. But It
Like
was
for
something,
equity or just a
nothing,
kind guy?
all,
Like,
just all
holy
handouts,
shit.
all handouts. And still to this day, I mean, every summer I go and I work an entire division of his company for him. He has, like, this is big business guy, like owns all the real estate in the city, millionaire, multimillionaire guy. And he had no business doing that. And he was the only person that said, you know, I see your potential and I see your passion as an asset. And he saved my ass, to say the very least. Made sure my mom didn't go bankrupt as she was co-signed on my first tractor. And yeah, I mean, that's how we got through, is him. I give all props to him, none of it to me. I mean, obviously, it was almost like a father figure. It wasn't like, here's a bunch of money, you're good now. It was like, all right, work every hour. And then I'd be like, okay, oh, how much am I making? He'd be like $20 an hour. And then he'd narrow in at one issue at a time. He broke it down for me, gave me checklists of things I needed to check off, and mentored me through the whole process. And then if there was an instance where I really needed a lump sum of money, he would say, okay, well, we know you can't go to the bank because your credit's been hurt because you haven't made a tractor payment since January. So he'd be like, okay, I'll give you, what do you need? You need 20 grand. I'll give you 20 grand and I want 12% interest and I want it paid in 6 months. But then he would also give me the hours at his company to make those ends meet. So
Yeah.
it was a very like interesting story. I don't know if you want to call it like a come up story or a come down story or whatever. It was just very, like, he told me after the fact that he was just worried about my mental health. He said it was losing. He's never seen anybody get hit so hard, so fast, and go up and down like a heart rate monitor. And he just said that it was, you know, he thought like I was going to like end my life. So he was just like, I'm not going to sit here. I have an ability to help and I'm going to. And then he told me, like, literally not too long ago, that he was hoping I was going to decide to close. He just wanted me to have the clarity to decide myself to close. He didn't want me to feel like I had no choice. He wanted me to know that I can pick if I want to close or if I want to keep going. And he thought I was absolutely insane for stepping back into the ring. And I did it last year. Then he saw the 5-star reviews. And then I doubled this year. He told me, don't double. Like, don't do it, Matt. Like, he's scared for me now. He's like, please, just take it easy. And then I did it again. And then I told him I just sent my plans for next year. Like I told you, we got a big growth on the way. And he just said, just do your thing.
I love it. Wow. That's crazy. Full circle. That's like, you got the lesson, but there's definitely someone bigger watching over us, right? So now the track, like the equipment debt, what the hell do you do in a position like that?
Again, like, I'm very open and honest about this stuff, and I get why people don't want to talk about it, but I like talking about it just because it's good information for anyone starting to have. But the one that really bit me was John Deere, right? So I have Kubotas and John Deeres on my fleet at the time, and the Kubotas were my first 2 units. Those required a cosigner. My mom at the time was always and has always been very supportive of my endeavors. She didn't give me any money. For anyone that says daddy's money, which I hear all the time, I never got any money from anybody. I got my mom's cosigner and I got all the money to pay for all my own bills, and I blew it, which is on me. But in my brain, the Kubotas were the last thing that to go overboard. We can't miss that payment, because if those payments stall, they go right to my mom. She's only a clerk at Lawton's, making like decent money. She works hard, but can't afford that. And she would have to go bankrupt and it would be horrible. So in my brain, it's just the John Deeres. I had a fleet of John Deeres that had just my name on them. And I said, I'm throwing them overboard. And I knew that it takes them a while to repo equipment. So I stopped paying on those in January. And I mean, by April, that was the first time they even reached out and said anything. They were like, we got to finish our season. And then they were like, hey, like, you're overdue. And that's when, in May, Mark got involved and we got on phone calls with John Deere Financial and we told them everything. We laid it all out for them. You forget that people are people. Like, they will understand if you break it down for them. If you hide and run away from shit, that's when you get yourself in trouble. And as long as you're not actually doing stuff shady, if you're just explaining to them, you know, hey, this is what I was doing and why, They were very reasonable people. And I have nothing against John Deere Financial. We decided that I was going to voluntarily surrender my fleet of John Deeres. And yeah, they were normally, when you volunteer to give up your equipment, they'll take it, sell it, and then whatever is against what you owe, whatever's remainder, they bill to you. But they didn't do that. They just took it and sold it, and we went separate ways. And I mean, they're not willing to finance to me yet, but they told me, and then by next year they're wanting to. And it was really, all things considered, not that bad. I mean, and for anyone else out there that's in this situation currently, or could be, there's a time in everyone's life where you're going to have a moment where you're like, how the fuck am I going to pay for this? The good news, which isn't good news, but it's there. These places do not report at your Equifax report. Your Equifax report is what bears all credit bureaucracy. Every single agency that you're going to lend from is going to pull your Equifax. It upgrades generally on the 15th or 14th of every month, and it shows your score, it shows your payments, it shows everything. Now, Kubota Canada, John Deere Financial, they do not report to your Equifax. Therefore, everything that happened with John Deere, that didn't hurt my credit. Even though it was like $890,000 that we were talking about, it didn't hurt my credit. What's ironic about it, which is where these are like the little things where I look back and go, for fuck's sakes, I was so focused on the $890,000 debt that I needed to get settled, get them to stop calling me. I needed to get this resolved. I was so focused on that I forgot about a tiny little Canadian Tire MasterCard with $1,000 on it. Tiny little MasterCard with $1,000 on it from rims that I bought when I was 16 years old. That's what's funny. The minimum payment was like $8 or $9. And I had it auto set up in my bank to like automatically pay whatever that minimum payment was. My dumb ass didn't know that interest rates fluctuate. I was shy by less than $1, got thrown into collections. That's what sunk my credit. I didn't even know. For a whole year, I didn't know because they had my old phone number, my old email. I hadn't even used the card. I didn't even have it in my wallet. That's what sunk my credit. It wasn't all the tractors. The tractors don't even show on your Equifax report. If it wasn't for that MasterCard, my credit would have been untouched. So that was my biggest dilemma. Because then going forward, like I said, I finished the season. So I still had my customers. I still had my income. What I had was no more leverage. I didn't have credit. Right now, I could have a whole fleet of 20 tractors. I don't have my credit. Yeah. And that's what bit me. So now I find I'm learning again, which I'm grateful for, is how to play this game in different angles. I'm learning how to play this game, and I'm still bigger and better at it than 99% of my entire city's contractors. And I'm doing it alone without credit. And that's a whole different game. Like, I'm putting 50% down on machines. I'm learning like these different ways of tackling this business model, like survival instincts. And for me, it's like, okay, if I ever want to get to that 20 tractor size, which I will in 2 years, I know I will. But it's good to know this stuff. And that's why I feel like, if I'm going to be one of the few guys that get into this, get big, and stay big their whole life, I need to know how to do this shit, how to maneuver this field in more than one way. And, you get hit with reality pretty quick when you lose your leverage, especially in a game where one unit is around 150 grand, cheapest one.
Yeah, it's the game. It's the chips that, like, knowing your options, I feel is like many guys' issues. I appreciate you speaking on that because it's so hidden and not enough guys bring it up of like that back end and how like intense it really is. But also like knowing those options, I didn't even know that. And like with collections, isn't like we had an issue with like a fake collections thing, and the company just sold like what we owed to someone else, and like I just didn't want to fucking pay it, and then like they kept selling it, so it was like 3 different collection companies came to us, and I'm like, no, like we actually don't owe that, like it was screw them. Does that go on your credit, or is that just people trying to like selling off
me and
like what you
Robert
owe?
Lee, which is the CFO of Windor, and I really hope they're okay with me sharing this stuff, but Robert was the one that kind of taught me a lot of these finance people, the only thing that they have on you is bluff. They try to spam you. act tough and scary to overwhelm you into getting their money because their only job is to get your money. Now, they don't. The only people that have the ability to really damage you is the government, the CRA and your HST. If those two are not paid, you're closed like that. It's lights out. You don't want to poke the bear. So the one blessing I had was my HST and my CRA income tax was always paid. That was huge. If it wasn't for that, that's a knife in the chest, instant death. Instant. If you, especially HST, that's the government's money. If you take that money and you do anything else with that HST, you're going to get in big shit. And you don't want to get audited when you're just a rookie and your books aren't where they should be. And they, I have a professional chartered accountant running all of my shit, and everything is done to a T. People think it's stupid. People bully me for it. And why you following every nitty gritty rule? Because I'm not tripping. I'm following every rule. When it comes to your debt, like personal debt, if you got a lender out there, like whether it's your Visa card or whoever, they will sell. And I've had to do it even with some of my customers that don't pay me. I've had a few customers that don't pay me. I'll sell it as long as it's over $800 to a collections agency, and their job is to collect it. So they'll buy it off of me. So say I have an outstanding balance of $850 with a customer, they'll give me like $400. So it's better than me getting nothing. And I don't want to have to deal with it anymore. I get my margin. They give me my $400. Then they take it. And now they want their $400 back and their $400 profit. So they're spam calling you because now it's their business. Now they're trying to make their money by spamming you, overwhelming you. When the truth is, unless they report it to Equifax, they can't do much. And a lot of these private collection agencies are similar to us or you or anyone else in business. They're not these overbearing, massive entities that can even report to Equifax. There are some, you got to figure out who's calling you. There are some that can damage your credit, like Canadian Tire. That's what got me. Because it was the same thing. I sold it to collections, and I did the same thing you said. I said, fuck off. Like, who are you? They had the ability because they're big enough, but there was a few other instances in my life where you can tell them, no, I'm not paying you. And I just went back to the lender and I said, this is all I can afford right now. I'm paying you this, and then this, and then this. And I told them, this is how it is. And that's one of the things that my friend Robert Lee, the CFO there, has taught me, is you actually have a lot more authority because you got to remember, they already gave you the money. You're in control now. They want it back. And yeah, you might hurt your credit, but if you're in a bad enough pinch, you can walk away and they lose everything. They put it all out on the table. And unless you have collateral listed or anything like that, you're kind of in charge. They like to make you feel like you're not. But if you, like I said, people are people. If you call them and just say, look, this is my position, black and white, you're getting your money on this day. This is how much you're getting. I'll try to pay you this on this day. I can't afford your payment regimen right now. I can't afford this minimum payment maybe. There's ways to maneuver the system that people obviously don't want you to know about because it cripples the credit bureaucracy. It cripples the whole regime. If everybody knew it and if everybody played the same game, then there wouldn't be any lending period. So I don't encourage people to just run around like, oh, I can steal money. No, it's every one of my debts have been paid off. It was more about, slithering and tackling, like I said, one issue at a time. Instead of having them bury me alive, I just said, all right, pick this one, pick that one. And it was just November. What is it, January? Yeah. So 2 months ago. That's it. 2 months ago was the last payment from my issues from 2022. That's how long it took. But I'm in the clear. I did it. Everything's paid. And everything's paid, and I bought a couple more tractors. So that's why I'm ready to grow again, because my credit finally, all the derogatory flags, that's the other thing. If you don't pay them, the most they're going to do is flag you as derogatory. It's called an R9 on your Equifax report. Once you get flagged with an R9 on your Equifax report, it makes getting a loan virtually impossible because they will see it. Their overwriters will look at it, see an R9 and just go, no. So I got my credit back up to around 500-600, dealt with those R9s, called them, again, be polite, and said, hey, can I please have those derogatory flags? Like, look, this is my situation. Can you please remove those R9s from my Equifax report? God willing, they did. And then, boom, credit score is back, and it's like it never happened. Again, I'm not sharing any of this like in a bragging. Yep. I told them, look, I know it wasn't on your timeline, but you got your money back. So don't flag me as someone that doesn't pay his bills when I did. I just had to take my time. So again, like, I'm not saying any of this because I'm not proud of any of it, but there's going to be hopefully someone out there someday, or even you in 20 years. I hope you never go through anything, but it's business. Shit can go very south. And you need to know, one, that it's your business and yourself are separate entities. I was bad with that. I put everything on me. And two, that you can maneuver. It's a game. You got to stop, like, remove yourself, think like a referee would, think like a coach would, think like a player would, play different parts of the field. Don't just like, all right, I got 12 grand in equipment bills I got to pay this month. I can't get 12 grand. I'm fucked. Don't
like pick. Taking the emotions out of it, right? And just like, these are the chips that I need to play. Like, let's prioritize. These are my options, and just knowing your options, whether you're fucked or in a better position, just knowing that they're there, I feel is, I don't know, keeps you in the game, right? And a lot of guys, especially like contractors, are so naive to all that legal and back end bullshit, right? So, now a hard lesson for us. Like, we're nowhere close to the scale you guys are doing. Snow is so small for us, but in a very high-end, wealthy neighborhood outside, like 30 minutes outside Toronto. And these people are very anal, very whatever. And for us, a hard lesson of last season during the snow was the amount of backups needed, whether it's backup equipment being ready to fire, literally having guys come in just to like sit on their ass, or like having a list of like 10 guys who are willing to come in for 40-50 bucks an hour and run equipment, and like, just in case, because of course people aren't going to show up at 1 a.m. And like, that took us too many storms of not hitting our times, or stuff breaking down, or people not showing up. Like, how have you guys, like, I guess your comments on that, and how do you guys kind of structure to prepare for shit going south?
So on the note of backup equipment, I generally find tractor breakdowns. So the machine, if it breaks down, the dealership is your best bet. Whoever sold it to you, don't go to just your local. Go to whoever sold you the piece of equipment, because they feel like they have a responsibility to take care of you and your business. So for me, luckily, I've got, like I said, I've been the Kubota kid my whole life. So my dealership back in my hometown takes very good care of me. It's expensive, but I can float down equipment when needed, which I just did last week, actually. Now, the snow blowers, they are what take the brunt of the beating. Those are the things that actually do the job. The tractors just pull it and power it. The blowers, I always keep them back. Like, I have so many backup snow blowers, and that's just me being maybe, I guess, paranoid, but at least have one. If you like, for every 3 or 4 machines you got in the road, you got to have one backup blower. Just budget for it, or do what I did when you have no money and drive down the highway where you're not competing, find a similar business model, or find anybody that's got a few beat up, shitty old blowers, and say, I'll give you $500. I'm going to take this for the season, and it's just going to sit in my yard as a backup. And that's what I do. So we're very, very close with Chore guys out of Moncton, New Brunswick, and they're similar yet different. He's around 60, and he's hoping, fingers crossed, not to jinx anything. I'm trying to get a BDC approval right now, actually, to buy this business. So it's about 17 tractors doing about 1,700 driveways, and he's got an inventory of used blowers that I can pick and choose from and rent when needed. Again, that's very unique to me. But when it comes to you, I mean, your backup is not expected to deliver the same service. So like, for me, if I was in your shoes, I'd go on Marketplace, buy a $4,000 beater of a blower or whatever tool you're using, and have it in the yard. And if you really need to break it out. And then if customers complain about it and it looks like shit, then just say we had a breakdown. It's better than nothing. We'll come back later once our other unit's fixed up, and we'll resolve it. And as long as you have constant communication, if you're dealing with anal people, which is what I'm dealing with, like, we're in Ross, New Brunswick, we have some of the richest people. Like, Irving lives here. I service some of them, like the Irving billionaires. So with people like that, it's just communication. You can't really just make a voicemail that says, we're doing this at this time, chill, wait for it. No, these people want an answer, and they, whether it's a ego thing or whatever, you got to tell them right away. When we have a breakdown, we send out a mass email. This is what's happening. This is what we're doing to resolve it. Anyone that gets mad about your transparency, you don't want them. So for me, if we send out a broadcast and there's 2 people, like Christmas Day storm, 2 people that are giving us headaches, here's your money back. Have a good season. Simple. I'm not scared to do that anymore. Like you said, you're always looking at the numbers. You want to go up, not down. For me, here's your money. Have a good season. I can't do it. You're hurting me. You're stressing our whole organization out. And not to mention customers that are overly anal, that don't understand your breakdowns, that don't understand that equipment will break and staff will fuck up. It happens. It's part of life. They also tend to fuck your entire ecosystem of your routes. Like they want to be done first. So you're sending one tractor all the way there to do it first. Then they're backtracking all the way back to the beginning of their route. They're crippling. You can't let your company breathe that way. That's just kind of how I do it. I don't know how you've done it with guys. It's hard. I don't know how Stefano gets that many bodies in a building at the times that he does. For me, I find with crew, I'm lucky to get them for after about, which I know sounds crazy, but it makes sense from their perspective. But after 20 hours, they drop like flies, which is understandable.
Yeah.
And they're done, they're beat, and it's not their problem. And they head home, and like you said, that's when your backups come in. And that's when you got your list of guys that you can call and keep those tractors rolling no matter what. I got mechanics. I'm more focused on setting up a mini that I can grow. You know what I mean? Like I just ordered a brand new Colorado Chevy truck with a tool cap on it, a power inverter, and I'm fully decking this truck out to be a mobile service truck, like 500 liters of mobile fuel and a fuel auxiliary, everything. And I mean, we're only doing 500 driveways. Everyone's like, you're crazy. Like that, you don't need that overhead. I don't need the stress of not having it is what I don't need. I would much rather finish this season with $0 fucking dollars. Because once again, I'm not scared of that anymore. I know how to play. So I'd much rather finish this season with nothing and have what I need to keep these customers happy. Because breakdowns will fuck you. Depending on your area and depending how your customers receive them. When the stars align for someone like Stefano, you can make stuff happen. But when they don't align, like you saw with your little taste of it, I mean, question for you. I know this is a podcast interviewing me, but how did you guys navigate not having snow?
Yeah, it's fucked. Like we did almost 200 houses last year and it was good. Like we had our routes. We don't get any snow though. Like we get like 3-4 inches, but we only signed up like 170 people this year and marketed our ass off and had a sales guy and fucking like went all in. But that's not having snow. So we did, though, sign up quite a few commercial accounts like plazas and malls and stuff because they need it for the liability. But it's like, it's a game that doesn't work so much. We saw that with Nick last year of like, this is just where we are. We don't get snow here. And it's a different game if you're, Stefano or you're in Montreal or Ottawa, but I don't know. So we brought on 2 tractors last year. And our tractors are producing the same amounts as our trucks, like for houses. And partially because the snow depth and our routes not being dense enough. But our tractors sit all summer and our trucks produce all summer. So it doesn't make sense to have tractors where we are anymore. And I don't know. I think it's just a fully different game. But
no, I hear you loud and clear. And that's just so you know, I'm in a very similar spot. Like we don't get snow. We get like last year I went out 4 days.
I saw your Christmas video.
Well, that was a once off. That was something that I've never seen before since 2014. It's rare around here, but because of the wealth that's in our region, people almost treat their driveway like it's a commercial property. And that's a benefit and a loss because we can't charge a lot because it doesn't snow a lot. Like we're sitting around $550 a season. Which is nothing. And we're going out only like 4 days. So people want anytime, like last winter, 4 storms that were above 5 centimeters. So anytime it snowed like 1 centimeter, 1 tiny little fucking centimeter, they wanted you out because they felt like they paid for it. And navigating that was also great. Like I said, the first year, my issue was learning. I was putting out fires left, right, and center. Like I felt like a fucking firefighter, like just spraying problems. Last year, I didn't have those problems because I kept those fires tamed. The next issue, which my life let me learn from in my University of Business course, which is what I'm in right now, was navigating customers' expectations. And that with no snow, like you're saying, I don't have density. I don't have all these things. How can I make these tractors produce 150 driveways each? I push them because I have to. How can I do it? And the way to do it is by I train guys all summer. Our whole focus is on having guys that can bang gears, drop the blowers. You're in and out of that driveway in a minute. I'm snow blowing some of my, not on big snowfalls, but on like the 5-10 centimeter ones. High gear, third range, 4 tires spinning, like racetrack style. And it's that's why you see me pushing with M5 111 and over a smaller hydrostatic unit. I need the speed. It's just how we do it. And I plan to circle my town, which is what I've done, 500 homes from corner to corner. So we're spread thin, very thin, driving everywhere. I'm hoping that reputation will fill in the circle. And that's when I can start implementing the smaller units. But I hear you loud and clear. If you're already invested in trucks, if you're already invested in other seasons, it physically doesn't make sense to have equipment that sits all summer. That's one of the biggest fucking reasons why I love the business model, though, because it makes everyone else not want to compete with me. My biggest competitors are set up just like you. Fleet of trucks, fleet of guys, fleet of all this shit. And then they look at my business model and they go, he's doing twice as many driveways as us, but he only needs 2 fucking bodies. What am I going to do with the rest of my guys? What am I going to do with the rest of my trucks? What am I going to do with the payments in the summer? And for me, that's security, because these big predators that are out there that want to bite me, because I've fucked them big time. They want to bite me, but they can't get themselves to, because biting me bites them. And I know that, and they know it, and we've had meetings about it. And I hear loud and clear what you're saying. You got to kind of if you're going to do this, you got to start doing it from the beginning. You can't it's hard to transition or add it as a branch when you already have trucks that are bringing you in money.
Yeah.
That's totally different.
I see how they can produce and work so well if you actually have snow. Number one, a truck will be fucked, and also your route density. But how do you find it with high-end clients? They're wanting we shovel all of our driveways, and then some of them are wanting salt stuff, and we have salt trucks for commercial lots, so we just we take care of them that way, because they're willing to pay the fucking $3,000 for a season package for us to take care of them. But and then at the same time, going back to special clients fucking up the rest of the flow that you have with the other 99% of your people. How you just say no to that, or how do you deal with it?
Looking on my whiteboard, there's only 5, so we baby them. That's on me. I mean, we baby them, and then we don't take them again. We just tell them, look, sorry, we're full, or we give them a price that if they're willing to pay like a commercial lot, because the reality is their expectation is of a commercial lot standard, then we can do them. But otherwise, we put up with them to a certain extent, and then if it gets bad, we will just tell them, it's written right in our terms and conditions. If you're going to behave this way, we are going to terminate your service. And I just kind of hide behind that, and I remain professional, remain polite, and remain respectful, and kind of give them a dose of what they're not giving me. And that way they don't know what to do. You can kind of watch people's brains short out when they're yelling at you, and you smile and just say, hey, how can I help you today, man? They're like, and that's just kind of my tactic. I've tried the other way. When I'm overwhelmed, I've just snapped at a few customers and lost my cool. And you just end up on Facebook. So it's an interesting road to navigate. But I mean, I hear what you're saying. And commercial snow for us is something that I do plan to venture into. Like I said, I'm tied to Mark, right? So I owe him big time. He's getting older. He's a senior, and he's getting older, and he's got a big list. I could be the biggest commercial snow contractor overnight if I just decided to maintain his properties alone. He's got 2 payloaders and he's got 537 vehicles on the road.
Shit.
Yeah. So I really want to do something with his properties and do commercial with salt trucks and all these things. But similar to Stefano, I mean, this business model just has my heart. And I won't lie, it's a little bit of ego. I do get a little bit of satisfaction of watching everyone on Facebook now realizing that I figured it out and that all their negativity fueled me to keep going. I don't know, man. It's I wouldn't do it if I got any less snow. I wouldn't do it. Like, I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing that, but what do you charge? Like last year, you had your 200, you had your minimal snow. What type of equipment were you using, and what did you charge?
Yeah. So like our average, like our lots are a lot smaller than you guys, but our average 2-car, like $800. If it's like a circle or an issue or a bit more of a laneway, we'll go up to like 1,000, 1,200, 1,500. And then if it's like a single, like 700, 600, and also depending how close they are to other people on the route, we kind of work with them. But is that in your guys' ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, for us, that's kind of where you hear me. If you ask anyone else from my city, the reason no one can fuck with me is because I love it and I'm crazy. So for me, everyone's sitting around $1,200. Similar to you, we get similar snow patterns. We're not in a snow belt like Stefano. We get the one-off like you saw Christmas Day. That kind of wakes people up that we are still in Canada, but generally we get a couple small snowfalls. And people are charging $1,200. So for me, I just said, all right, this service generally, like the way Nick and Stefano run it, I got to alter it a bit. I got to tweak it to make it fit my list. So for me, I kind of try to make this like a fast food joint for snow removal. We aren't the absolute best when it comes to route times because we take a long time, but we're the cheapest by over 50%. $500 is the most I'll pull out of someone's pocket. And because of that, I can get huge lists, but then I don't put, I don't focus on 4 or 5 hour turnaround times. I just say to the person straight up, this is fast food. If you want a full course meal, you can cook it at home. If you want to pay for the $1,200 guy with a plow truck, you can go do it. Or you can get on this waiting list. We have very top line equipment and we're devoted to getting it done. It will get done and it will stake it for you. You'll get automated alerts, but you're going to wait. There's a first and a last driveway. We're going to put you on the list and we're going to get to you within a day. And that's how we make it work, by dropping that price down. I've had better luck with that. Now, mind you, you get the people that sign up wanting a deal that forget why the deal's there. It's like buying a cheap headset off Amazon. You get something you can hear out of, but you're not getting the AirPod Pro. So it's similar in nature, twisted to fit my environment. And that's the recipe that I've found lets me scale. And that's why I laugh now when people are like, so-and-so, this competitor of mine, they were at my driveway fucking 6 hours ago and Dr. Snow was just getting here. I'm like, then go pay them that.
Yeah.
I'm over half the price. And you got almost $250,000 tractor pulling in your driveway with a guy making really good pay inside. So that's how I do it.
Like route times, how do you find that with your clientele? Like our first storm, we shit the bed. We've been out 3 times so far this year, which is like amazing. It was kind of cool to remind people that we still get snow, but like the signups didn't come, I think, because it was so little. Like we only went out twice last year. Anyways, we've been out 3 times. The first time we shit the bed, it was like an 18-hour shift. Like it killed the guys, whatever, and partly messed up by a manager who's no longer with us. And then I'm like, okay, like let's show the guys that we care, we can do this. Let's show the people selling, like sales guy, we can do this. Let's show the clients like why they sign up. The next time we got it done in like 7 hours or something nuts. Like I called like my whole list of shovelers, fucking everything. I'm like, listen, like we need to show people why they sign up. And like that difference was like people actually said thank you, opposed to just blowing up our phone from the first one of like, where are you guys, what the fuck? Like how do you manage that with having high-end clientele but like reminding them, hey, this is what you signed up for, this is like what you're doing?